from 613, 694 units.
Between lanes 2 and 3. Takes us 120 miles an hour. Directly under the helicopter now. Still 130 southbound.
This programme is devoted to the remarkable material recorded from police helicopters. Their work covers a wide range of activities from life-saving rescues to the pursuit of criminals on the run. Its sheer versatility and efficiency has made the helicopter an invaluable tool of modern policing.
India 99, India 99, the crew to the aircraft please, we've got a job.
There are 22 air support units throughout the country responding to emergency calls just like this. Whether the police helicopters and aeroplanes are looking for missing people, tracking speeding cars or controlling crowds, their ability to go where cars can't gives them a unique bird's-eye view. Even the most determined fugitive won't get away, and innocent lives can be saved.
From the time a request for assistance has been received, the helicopter crew can be airborne in a matter of minutes. And with flying speeds of up to 140 miles an hour, their rapid response times can prove invaluable, as this next clip shows. At the scene of an armed robbery in Oxford, a member of the public reported seeing the gang using a silver Saab as their getaway car. This was the only clue Thames Valley Police had to work on. The helicopter, called in to search the area, soon spotted this car, matching the description and travelling recklessly along the road at over 90 miles an hour. They were sure they'd found what they were looking for. The helicopter radioed ground forces and alerted them to the position of the bandit vehicle. The criminals, realising the police were in pursuit, are determined to get rid of any incriminating evidence. Watch carefully as they approach the bridge. We've slowed down the video so you can see their gun being thrown from the car. Despite the road coming to an end, the robbers press on across a field. But there's no way out. They're forced to abandon their car. The two men are now on foot. As they find their way out onto the road, they must have felt their luck was in. A potential getaway vehicle is just leaving the close. The driver of the white van, however, was no pushover. A struggle ensues, but the driver is determined his van isn't going to provide the criminals with an escape route, and he walks away with the keys. It might have been a different story if they'd still been armed. The criminals are on the run again. But with the police closing in, they realise they've no option but to give themselves up. The helicopter's valuable evidence helped secure a conviction. They each got 9 years. Cops and robbers is just part of the story when it comes to the air support units. When the Central Counties helicopter was called to Junction 16 on the M6 motorway, they couldn't quite believe the terrible carnage below. An initial accident was caused by a blanket of freezing fog, but it was drivers slowing down to look at the first accident that brought about the ensuing chaos, leaving thousands of motorists stranded in a tailback stretching 18 miles. Throughout, the jam was littered with collisions. Information supplied by the helicopter proved invaluable, leading the emergency services on the ground to the most needy casualties. Frustrated drivers inadvertently hampered rescue operations by jamming police airwaves with calls from mobile phones. The first incident happened at 8 a.m, but it was not until 10 p.m. that evening, some 14 hours later, that the road was finally clear.
Police helicopters are specially adapted to cope with their demanding role. Up-to-the-minute technology allows them 24-hour vision and high-quality pictures. This helicopter is equipped with a 1600-watt searchlight. Slung underneath are tracking devices that can help them keep in touch with stolen cars. And in this pod at the front of the helicopter, there are 2 cameras. At the flick of a switch inside, police observers can alternate between the regular daylight camera and the thermal imaging camera. And that means they can coordinate their forces on the ground, whether it's day or night. And those forces won't only be the police, they'll include ambulance crews and the fire brigade. And that's just what happened when a mighty explosion rocked the oil refinery at Milford Haven in West Wales.
This 550-acre site produces an incredible 7.5 million gallons of petroleum products every day. The refinery workers' worst nightmare happened when a bolt of lightning fractured a pipe releasing highly flammable vapour. It immediately ignited, causing a huge explosion. It took 20 fire engines to get the blaze under control, and the helicopter proved vital in keeping firefighters on the ground informed. The helicopter's thermal imaging camera was able to pinpoint heat sources in the tanks around the fire. In this picture, the hot spots can clearly be seen glowing green. Any too close to the blaze could be doused with water in order to avert another huge explosion. The subsequent fire service report describes just how crucial the information provided by the Dyfed-Powys police was in averting a major disaster. A jumbo jet would have to fly around the world over 57 times to use all the fuel stored here. Had it blown up in one go, the result would have been catastrophic. Miraculously, the worst injury sustained was a broken wrist. Tracking technology meant the police could find this stolen digger, even though it was well hidden behind the yellow lorry. The new system uses the same technology as mobile telephones. After a central computer has activated the tracking unit fitted in the stolen vehicle, it sends up a mayday message. The helicopter's fitted with a receiver that picks up the message and tells the pilot the direction and distance the signal's coming from. All the helicopter crew had to do now was direct the ground forces toward the stolen vehicle.
Yankee 6, keep coming, keep coming. Go beyond the Volkswagen on your right, keep going. Beyond the concrete wall on your left, there is a gap. Go through the gap. Go right, there's a yellow lorry with a crane on the back. At the back of that is the plant, the digger in question, over.
Yes, got it, Kabuto mini digger.
Correct.
99 and Foxtrot, we've got the owner of the yard here, Mr. Heath. He's stating that he lets a corner of the yard to 2 Irish males. He hasn't seen them for a while, they're having money, etc. All the normal story. We're just obviously starting to check it out. Yankee 6 over. We've got two items of plant and a trailer here as well. We're going to have to start checking them all out.
Not only did the owner of the yard not know the stolen vehicle was there, he also didn't know about the additional £250,000 worth of stolen plant machinery the police subsequently found. Using the thermal imaging camera, which in this footage shows heat as black, the helicopter's helping police on the ground to search some railway sidings.
Yeah, if you turn and face the wagon to your immediate right, there is a heat source lying on top of it. I would suggest you perhaps get some assistance before you go up there.
The single policeman, standing between the rows of carriages, calls for assistance from his colleagues, who've been searching elsewhere in the sidings for 2 boys who were reported spraying graffiti on the wagons.
The one directly ahead of you now. It's a heat source, but as we get closer, it's starting to look too large for a human. But it's the one that you're climbing on now.
When they'd climbed on top of the carriage, however, it did prove to be one of the boys. But his body heat had warmed material around him, making him seem much larger. His partner in crime proved an equally easy target.
If you're running for cover in the daytime, you may head for the trees and undergrowth as an obvious hiding place. You can't see the helicopter, so how could the helicopter see you? Well, it can't with the ordinary daylight camera, but the heat-sensitive camera will always spot those vital, bright white clues.
This Dyfed-Powys footage shows just how effective the thermal imager can be during daylight hours. To the right of the centre crosshatch, a faint white heat source is visible. Sure that this was the criminal they were after, the helicopter directs 2 CID officers to the location. The car thief had abandoned a stolen vehicle and run off to hide in the undergrowth. But his attempt to conceal himself was hopeless. It's 11:30 at night, and the car in front is being pursued by a number of police vehicles along the A329 in Oxfordshire. Turning into a cul-de-sac, the police outmaneuver the bandit vehicle, leaving it no option but to stop. The driver, however, manages to sprint away on foot, jumping over 2 wire fences along the way. The small scattering of heat sources here are birds, flying from the thick undergrowth where the fugitive thinks he's found the perfect hiding place. Police on the ground can't see a thing, but directed by the helicopter above, they edge toward their target. Once the helicopter is following, it's almost impossible to escape. And this led to another party, as rehoused tower block residents watched with joy.
The search for missing people, whether it's an armed criminal on the run or a child who's disappeared, is frequently a matter of life and death. One of the greatest strengths of the air support units is that they can speed up that hunt. This helicopter can effectively cover 1 square mile in just 12 minutes. That's a task that on the ground would take 450 officers 1 hour to complete. It's a difference that can save lives.
On a wet, cold September morning, the Dyfed-Powys police were called to help in the search for a woman who'd gone missing on a mountain walk. Carrying out a systematic search of a large area of open ground and forestry, they soon found a heat source at the edge of the forest where the woman had slipped and fallen. The next step was to direct the police to the hotspot. They found her. She'd hurt her ankle, but was desperately cold. Much longer, and hypothermia could have set in. To have accurately searched the same area on foot would have taken 20 police officers at least a week. Almost certainly too long. The helicopters called to assist in the search for 3 men who've committed a burglary in the area. The police are fairly sure the suspects have not gone far.
Alpha 2 from 99. Now, can you just tell us how long ago it was when they were last seen?
Yeah, about 8 or 9 minutes ago now, and they ran off from the direction of our van towards that railway siding over.
That's all received.
The helicopter starts a sweeping search of the area. It soon picks up a heat source next to the pillbox-shaped hut in front of some railway lines. Now it's up to the ground forces to check it out.
The van unit, which has now parked up by the side of a caravan, can they acknowledge? I want them to go and have a look at something. 911.
5912.
Okay, from your position where you are on that scrubland, waste ground area, can you walk as you're got your back to your van? Can you walk to your right, please? Walk to your right. And you need to go towards where the actual 2 railway lines cross. There's a small pillbox area. We've got a heat source emanating from just around one of the corners. That's it, you're walking in the right direction. Yeah, as you head towards that, if one can go one side and one go the other side, it's round the back. Yep, just keep making your way round, and just as you two meet, that's where the heat source was.
A unit round here, please. We've got 3 suspects.
And the heat source did indeed turn out to be the burglars they were looking for.
When the police encounter a runaway car, whose driver may be prepared to take any risk in a bid to escape, their first priority is to contain that potential danger to other road users. But with the helicopter above, there really is little chance of escape, and so the police pursuit car can drop back and follow from a distance. And without the sirens wailing and blue lights flashing on its tail, the bandit car often slows down, which makes the inevitable arrest an altogether safer operation.
After a hold-up at a supermarket in Newport Pagnell, the Thames Valley Police are in pursuit of this yellow BMW. The police's main priority was to stop these armed robbers as quickly and safely as they possibly could. Their erratic driving was proving a real threat to other road users as they charged through Oxfordshire, trying to avoid capture. As the criminals head to more built-up areas, the need to stop them becomes more urgent. What's more, these men are armed and dangerous. With the helicopter able to anticipate the route of the getaway car, ground forces were in a position to set up an ambush. The robbers are finally brought to a halt. Ground forces act swiftly to get them out of the car, and believing them to be armed, take no chances. Each received a 9-year sentence. The Metropolitan Police helicopter received an urgent call for help from ground forces at the British Museum in London. There had been an attempted break-in, but police had no idea whether the suspects were robbers or vandals. The helicopter's skills were needed after one of the suspects had emerged onto the roof in an attempt to escape. The thermal imaging camera spots him as he clambers over the chimney stacks. 2 police officers have followed the fugitive onto the roof. He tries to hide from them, but he hasn't bargained for the helicopter's beady eye. As they approach, he's on the run again, perilously close to the edge. The building is over 75 feet off the ground. For the fugitive and his police pursuers, it's a high-wire circus act without a net. One slip could mean instant death. The ground force lose sight of him, but as the helicopter circles, they manage to spot him disappearing through a skylight. You can see him here, on the left, trying to make his escape. He may be out of sight for the moment, but with the information from the helicopter, the officers are soon on his trail again. And with other police waiting inside the building, an arrest is inevitable. The police had no difficulty spotting the driver of this HGV truck after he deliberately drove into several patrol cars as he came off the M6 motorway and sped into Hanley in Staffordshire. The police began to think it was them he was after, but they soon realised they were wrong when he turned his attentions to other drivers on the road. His desire to cause havoc seemed relentless. The pursuit went on so long, the Central Counties helicopter had to return to base to refuel. But as these pictures from surveillance cameras show, the driver was determined not to give up, even though hitting so many vehicles was beginning to take its toll on his truck. Ground forces in Staffordshire finally cornered the driver in a bus depot after an incredible 4.5-hour pursuit. But with a 2.5-year prison sentence, the driver paid dearly for giving the police the runaround. Crowd control and high-speed chases can be grueling and dangerous. But there are bonuses as well. As fireworks soar into the night sky, the huge VJ Day crowds gasp with delight. The police helicopter hovers above to make sure all are safe. It's a job, but one that gives them the best seat in the house.
Next week's police camera action is Wednesday at 8.